This is Trophy, the Scoundrel's Quarter, Part 1. I'm going to start off by having all of us introduce ourselves. So when I call on you, please say your name, your pronouns, and anything else you would like for us to know about you. I will start, though. My name is Jason. I use he, him. I am the co-publisher of Trophy, along with its creator, Jesse Ross. I've never run the Scoundrel's Quarter before, so I'm really excited to do this campaign. Let's go over to Rob. We cannot hear Rob. Let's go over to Amanda.
Hello, can you hear me? My name is Amanda. My pronouns are she, her. I'm kind of around in the TTRPG space playing lots of games. If you support the Gauntlet on Patreon, you can get a mystery I have written on there for Brindlewood Bay called Murder Most Foul. It's mostly just bird puns in a mystery wrapper. Otherwise, I'm just really excited to play this. I don't really know what this is going to be like. I didn't look at anything. I didn't want spoilers, so I'm pumped.
Awesome. Okay, now let's go to Rob.
Hi, I'm Rob, he, him. I played many one-shots of Trophy, both Dark and Gold, but this will be my first Trophy campaign.
Fabulous. Thank you so much. Let's go to Ben.
I'm Ben. I use he, him pronouns. I make character keepers and I'm just dipping my toe in writing. And I've played several Trophy Gold campaigns, but never with the Scoundrel's Quarter. So this is exciting and will be fun.
Yeah, I think Ben, I think you and I are the only people to have played a Trophy campaign here at the table. So I don't know. Jack.
Yeah, my name is Jack. Any pronoun is fine. I have a good amount of experience in Dark, but I've only played Gold once, and that was with you, Jason, for the Painting of the River. So I'm excited to get more Gold experience in, but also to see just how this is going to play out, because I have no idea.
Awesome. I love it. Okay. Normally, this is when I would do an overview of the system and the campaign called CATS, where we'd go over concept, aim, tone, subject matter. I'm not going to do that today because this group is really familiar with how Trophy works, as evidenced by the introductions. And so if you're watching this video and you want like a basic Trophy overview, please go find one of the other videos in my channel. I've got loads of them where you can go get that information. I do, however, want to talk a little bit about the Scoundrel's Quarter campaign because I think that's important to understand before we get started. The Scoundrel's Quarter is a special campaign framework. It's located in the Trophy Dark book. And what it does is it allows you to create an entire Trophy campaign that uses both Dark and Gold and also Loom, presumably as well. So it incorporates all of the books to create your campaign. The foundation of it is this neighborhood in Fort Durin called the Scoundrel's Quarter, which is where all the treasure hunters hang out. All the treasure hunters are in the Scoundrel's Quarter, and they have their own culture, their own, civic way of life. They have it's their neighborhood, their district. And when new groups go out to incursions, they get, celebrated. It's a whole thing, right? And so in between incursions, the characters return to the Scoundrel's Quarter and different things happen. But also the Scoundrel's Quarter has its own ruin score. So I have at my option or at my disposal, I can always offer you a devil's bargain in the game that is to put the Scoundrel's Quarter in danger. And if you do that, there's a chance that the Scoundrel's Quarter ruin goes up and the forest begins to overtake the Scoundrel's Quarter a little bit, in which case the ruin goes up. And in order to get the ruin to go down, you have to do a Trophy Dark incursion. You're generally playing Trophy Gold, but you have to do a Trophy Dark incursion to lower the ruin of the Scoundrel's Quarter. This can be an incursion that takes place in the present day of the campaign. It's just a different group of treasure hunters. Or it could be like an elder in the Scoundrel's Quarter sort of telling a story about a past incursion. And so you play the Trophy Dark incursion as a flashback, and sort of the telling of the story causes the ruin to go down because everyone is like, remembering where we came from and all that business, right? And so that's sort of how this campaign works. You're mostly playing Trophy Gold. It's occasionally intercut with Trophy Dark things, and there are adventures that take place in Fort Durin and the Scoundrel's Quarter as well. So it is a full campaign. One other thing we're going to be doing that I have not done on my YouTube at least yet is this is going to be a full proper campaign. So in the past, in my channel, all the other playlists, it's discrete incursions. It's maybe a one shot or a two shot. It's just a single one and done run of this incursion. We might see some of those characters again, we might not. And there's no real cohesion between them. That is not going to be the case here. Here, we aren't even going to name the incursions. You're just going to be going to adventuring locations and doing a thing, right? But also we're going to be doing the journey rules of the game. So the game has special journey rules called the Places Between. We'll be doing that as well whenever you travel to the various sites. There will be a cartographer in the group who will track all of that. And there will also be a record keeper, a keeper of the bestiary as well in the group. So this is a sort of ongoing thing. So that's what I wanted to say about the Scoundrel's Quarter. We are going to pause the video to go make characters, and then we'll come back and introduce them. Okay, let's go ahead and meet our first passel of Trophy Gold characters here. We're going to go in the order of the sheet, and so we're going to start with Rob and Benah. And here, Rob, just a reminder, just whatever you know about the character at this point. It's okay if you don't know what the drive means necessarily yet. We'll figure that out.
I think Benah's drive is pretty straightforward. Benah uses he, him pronouns. He is a smuggler and a former errant knight. His drive is to retire in comfort in the Rose district of Amberay. And he has one ritual, which is hand, that allows him to concentrate to mentally move a small object you can see. Yeah, that's about it, unless you want me to go through skills and equipment in detail.
No, I think it's a good start. That's good. Oh, one quick note. It's Umbrette. That is how.
Excuse me.
It is. I used to say Umbre all the time. It's Umbrette, apparently. According to Jesse, it's Umbrette. So fabulous. Okay, great. Let's go to Jack and Malkuth. What a great name.
Yeah, Malkuth is he, him. His current occupation is a chain, which gives him the skills, commands, elements, and rituals. His background is an enlightened miner, which gives him skills and paths. And his current drive is to break the siege of his sibling's fortress.
I love it. That's interesting. Okay, great. And let's go over to Ben and Cassian.
Cassian is a naturalist and a runaway Kingsguard, which might be tied into his drive to find the artifact that proves the king's true nature. He has the skill of beasts, plants, silence, and tracking, and the ritual gardener, so he can eat a plant to absorb some of its memories.
I love it. Fun ritual thing. I ran a game yesterday where I saw a ritual I'd never heard of before. Like someone played it, I'd never seen it play, and it was called Orchard, and it's like create a bunch of apples, some of them poisoned. I thought that was great. Like, what a great ritual.
I watched that recording. That was an amazing ritual. I can't wait to see what happens with it.
Yeah, it's great. I love the rituals. They're great. I've never had Gardener in a game either, so that'll be fun. All right, let's go over to Amanda and Magda.
Magda is a retired soldier, so she's a little bit up in years, but she retired early. Nowadays, she is a sellsword. Her drive is to commission a glorious statue of her deity. I don't know what deity that is yet, but I'll think about it. Skills are athletics, defense, surprise, tactics. So she's, the muscle of the group. The ritual I have chosen is Steed. Summon a spectral mount which can walk on air and water.
I love it. Okay. If there are no other questions about the characters or the game, we're going to just dive right in. After I give you a die roller. One sec. I'm going to be doing that on the fly in a minute. I don't think we're going to need it for a little bit, but they're ready anyway. Okay, here is the die roller. And with that, we shall begin. the Scoundrel's Quarter. The four of you are in a dark, tight alleyway, illuminated overhead by a shaft of gray light that has managed to penetrate from the upper reaches of the buildings. And there is an old man dressed in rags, a cloth tied over his eyes. The cloth has markings on it to indicate that the old man is a priest. A priest of one of the sisters, Saint Amzer, saint of wayfarers, of trails, of paths. The markings indicate he's a priest of Saint Amzer. Magda, what are the markings?
The markings show sort of a line, basic stylized version of a road. You could see two lines that intersect, showing the path, the crossroads that people must take, the decisions people must make. Above it, of course, is the circle representing the sun or the moon, depending on which path you are following. And through it all is a wavy line showing how everything is connected, like the waters of the world.
This little cul-de-sac at the end of this alley is quite hazy with smoke. And the old man says, "Oh, yes. Another passel of treasure hunters. A newly formed expedition into the wilds beyond the walls of Fort Duran. Even though I cannot see with my eyes, I see the glint of gold in yours. The path shall be revealed." Which of you is most likely to have the most intuitive understanding of the correct path to take?
Is it through the forest?
You can interpret the question however you wish.
Given Malkuth's background in mining, I think that he has an understanding at least of navigation and knowing how to forge paths where there may be none.
Would anyone else like to make a case?
If it's through the forest, Cassian has a skill in tracking and has spent much time amongst the trees.
Intriguing. The Pathseer waves his hand behind him to the reason you came here. A standing stone, as tall as two men, carved all over with glyphs and pictograms. The glyphs and pictograms, according to the priests of St. Amzer, point the way to treasures both within and without the forest. Would-be treasure hunters present themselves to the Pathseers, who then use the pictures to tell them where to go to find treasure. The Pathseer says, 4 possible fates have been selected for you, treasure hunters. Who among you will lay their hands upon the stone? Who among you will narrow the choice? Who among you will decide the fate of all? Malkuth, Cassian, which of you step forward?
I think Malkuth would actually stand forward. I think you would see that he has an amulet of protection that's essentially looks to be like a chunk of like malachite with like little red veins in it, and he has these studded gauntlets that he wears. They're pretty hefty looking, but he'll approach it and just very reverently start to place his hands upon it.
Excellent, excellent. 4 paths. And he takes your hand and guides it to one pictogram. A snake encircling a yellow star. He moves your hand to another pictogram. A stag, tall and ferocious, chasing a wolf with its tail between its legs. Moves your hand to the third. A crow with a crown, reigning over a kingdom of corn. And he moves your hand to the fourth pictogram. A river flowing with waters in purple and fuchsia and blue. Which are you drawn to, treasure hunter?
His hand has gone across all 4 of them, but I think his eyes have stayed fixed on the first one.
The snake encircling the yellow star. Very well. The path is chosen. And now I must interpret. He has a brazier. There are more of these blind priests, these pathseers of Saint Amzer. They begin throwing herbs and incense into the brazier. The rest of you must make an offering to the fire. The offering of flesh or fauna, or that which reminds you of something fair. What do you give? And this can be something from your pack or just something made up in the fiction. That's fine too.
Magda steps forward, completely serious. Nods at the seer. Fishes through her bag and uncorks a bottle of very fine wine. The cork is replaceable, of course. I'm not going to waste this. But adds a splash to the fire.
There's a hiss of steam as it hits the flame. What of you, who nearly stepped forward but did not have the courage to take a full stride? To Cassian.
Cassian will kind of snort a little bit and then step forward toward the fire. And from he carries a gnarled staff with him. And it is actually still alive. There are offshoots and branches that grow probably faster than one would expect. And he will raise the staff to his lips, kiss one of the branches gently, and then break it off and throw it in the fire.
The smoke gets thicker. And to Bana, what do you deliver to the fire?
Benar steps forward and reaches into the inside pocket of his coat and pulls out an envelope with a seal, a wax seal on it. And standing in front of the fire, he uses his finger to break the seal and pulls from it a piece of paper with very tightly spaced, intricate, inked writing on it. And as he takes it out, also a fine powder falls from the envelope into the flames. And after he's done draining the powder from the envelope, he lets go the envelope and the letter as well into the fire.
Remember your offering, because on the incursion, you can say during a die roll or a moment that, oh, this is why I chose the offering I chose. This was what I was meant to find or see or do. And you get an extra light die when you do that. You get to do it once. The path is chosen. The offerings are made. The smoke billows. And now we inhale deeply and make our interpretations. We send up our prayers to St. Amzer. We beg her to show us the path, to show us the way for you, treasure hunters of Fort Durin. He's taking in the smoke. They're all taking in the smoke. And then they confer with each other for a time, these path seers. And then they come to you, finally, and say, your path goes not to the wilderness. It goes not to the lost and forgotten places of the world. Your path leads to none other than Amberet, the capital city, where you will seek the temple of the Peerless Star. They are holding a grand holy night 3 weeks hence. It is an opportunity to slip into their temple unseen and plunder it for all it's worth. But beware of the stars below. The path has been laid out for you. Begone.
Magda gives a stiff nod and spins and walks out of the room.
It's not even a room, it's the end of an alley where
Walks
this
out of
standing stone is. Funny thing about the standing stone, the standing stone is actually it's what Fort Durin was originally built around. It was the first thing that was there. It was there before Fort Durin was there. But now it's just lost in a corner of the city, and only treasure hunters and the priests of St. Amzer give it any mind. But in any case, let's just have the scene with all of you walking out of the alley with your path laid out before you. A brand new group of treasure hunters. You've never done a job before, so together, although you might know each other by reputation or otherwise.
Well, it seems like our path is laid out for us.
Yes, some rather unnecessary theatrics for what seems a simple enough proposition.
Malkuth will look to Kazian and go, I apologize if I overstepped.
Kazian will just look at him and then move on.
Well, I'm sure we're going to have a grand adventure together.
I should hope so. It'll be a long time together.
I'm Magda, by the way. I'm sure you've heard of me.
I have actually.
Which
mostly good
folk song
things.
did you hear of me?
Well, mostly good things. There was the one about Magda, the drunken brawler. There was one about Magda, the leg cutter. Didn't know what that was a strange ballad, but But they seem to be singing your praises either way.
Yes, those ones were, well, you know how when you have many stories and songs written about you, some of
No,
the, oh, well, perhaps if you spend enough time with me, you will. You could be one of the verses in one of my songs.
perhaps.
Judging by the noise our friend Magda here makes as she walks along in all that armor, it's clear enough which skills she brings to the table. What about you, friend?
Ooh, I have hammer.
A straightforward approach.
And I'm good with stone. I've been a miner, or was a miner, for quite some time.
Ah. So if we need to tunnel our way into this Temple of the Peerless Star, you might be just the fellow.
Perhaps, judging by your lithe build and waxed mustache, I assume you're somewhat familiar with getting into places, maybe with a bit more refined approach.
And you, friend? Cassian, was it?
I know the woods as much as any man can say to know the woods.
How unfortunate you're going to the city.
The woods have a long reach,
That's
even
true.
within Fort Durn.
That is true. Very
Ever
true.
longer, it seems, yes.
Let us speak of your preparations. So you have 3 weeks to reach Amberet in order to take advantage of this holy night that's been called at the Temple of the Peerless Star. Apparently a rare occurrence. You will spend a number of days here in Fort Durn doing research, learning about, just making your preparations and kind of learning more about where you're going. And then maybe a week or 2 on the road. You should have plenty of time to do all those things and arrive on time. During your preparations in Fort Durn, it is actually the Harvesttide Honey Festival, one of a number of seasonal festivities that take place here in the fort, which is really more of a city than a fort. It's kind of something of a misnomer. The Harvesttide Honey Festival sees street vendors selling honeyed confections, children dressing as bears and demanding treats, and secret offerings left out to ward off the vengeance of the great bee, the mother of millions. We're going to take a 5-minute break. Think about how you celebrate the Harvesttide Honey Festival, and think about the preparations you're making to head to Amberet, and think about, perhaps most importantly, during Harvesttide Honey Festival, how do the other treasure hunters fate you because you're a new group going out to search for treasure, right? Think about those things, and we'll take 5 and come back and talk about them. You have a few days to make your preparations for heading out to Amberet and ultimately to the Temple of the Peerless Star. The whole time, of course, the muttered prayers of the priests of St. Amzer are perhaps rattling around in your head. Saint who spilled her blood for me, laying in smoke-choked reverie, we seek your light upon our brows. Show us to the trophies now. The Harvesttide Honey Festival. You are, Malkuth, first reminded of its arrival by an 8-year-old in a bear costume that jumps out of an alley and goes, "Rawr! I'm a bear! Rawr! Give me all your honey treats! Rawr!
Yes, you are. I don't have any honey, though.
Rawr!" If you don't have any honey, that's a problem, because there are more bears that come out and they just begin like kicking you, like you don't have any treats. What do you do?
I I still have my hammer on me, but I kind of grip it for security and just very awkwardly trying to shuffle through this throng of bare skinned people. And I'm sorry, I'm on my way to get some, I promise. And he's just kind of pushing through.
Indeed, indeed. And right behind the gang of little bear kids is a street vendor, of course, selling honey-based treats, ready to rescue you from future bear attacks if you wish. The Harvesttide Honey Festival is in full swing.
Yeah, definitely go into that vendor.
Yeah. It's a funny thing. Most of Fort Durin doesn't actually celebrate the Harvesttide Honey Festival. This is a specifically Scoundrel's Quarter thing because it started as a way of sort of getting spiritual protection from the bees. Of course, the people who never leave the walls of Fort Durin have no reason to be mistrustful of bees. They only know the bees that pollinate flowers and therefore give us food. But of course, treasure hunters know that bees are bad business, or they can be, historically speaking. And so, of course, this festival over the centuries has grown up, changed, been commodified, commercialized, as far as things can be in the Scoundrel's Quarter. Certainly, many of the merchants who are not in the Scoundrel's Quarter make their way to the Scoundrel's Quarter to sell honey-based treats to people being assaulted by children in bear costumes. Cassian, do you celebrate the Harvesttide Honey Festival?
Of course.
How so?
He is one of those who will leave the offerings for the bees, but in town, he will quite happily distribute honey to the children and always remind them that it is a gift from the bees and should be enjoyed as such.
Indeed, indeed. Magda, do you have anything to do with this?
I don't celebrate exactly, but I do take the opportunity to put on different performances, reenacting my epic battle. I'm sure you know the song, the folktale song of Magda and the great bee of Behemoth Bee Land.
Where's this going?
And so I think, yeah, Magda has kind of staked out a little spot in maybe if there is a square in Scoundrel's Quarter, to put on performances and get, may I have a volunteer? And show off her sword skills. Of course, her helmet is down so that people can put in coin should they wish to help with the fundraising for the trip, for the adventure that we're about to go on.
Indeed, indeed.
But mostly
And
it's
people will
just
be extra
swordplay.
generous because of that. Actually, they know you're going. Like it's not a secret when treasure hunters set out, right? It's like a thing.
So it's one part Magda showing off and trying to make sure people remember her and remember all of her cool songs that people don't sing anymore, and also one part trying to get a little bit of extra cash for this adventure up to Ambarat.
Binah, during the Honey Festival, people do leave secret offerings out in order to protect against the great bee, the mother of millions. What are these offerings that you see, and do you believe in all that stuff?
I think they are little, like a small pot with a flower growing in it to attract a colorful flower to attract the bees and draw them away from the homes. And I think, although Benar is a little dismissive of the practice, he is sure enough to put his own flower out at the appropriate time.
I love it. The Honey Festival goes on for a few days, culminates in a grand sort of like public, like block party feast, thing that everybody can go to. It's mostly for people in the Scoundrel's Quarter. People from the better parts of the city, and certainly members of the King's Guard, do not make their way down to this celebration. let's just paint the scene. How has this one particularly wide thoroughfare been decorated or otherwise prepared for this great honey-themed feast?
There is lattice and bunting across all of the different windows and walls that are around this area that are done up in a honeycomb pattern.
All
I
of
think little,
the
oh, sorry,
sorry. Go on.
little honey treats are hanging from the lattice as well.
All of the vendors and anyone who's sort of like participating to help sort of organize and run this are all dressed in gold, like shades of gold and marigold and yellows. And especially some of the vendors, like the sweet vendors, the honey vendors, some of the honey treats are actually these like honey coated grapes that they call dill eyes.
Very nice.
There are lots of around all the stalls are kind of around the top of them are garlands of flowers. But given the weather in Amberay and the fact that obviously these had to be brought from somewhere else, some of them are beginning to wither a little, and they're not, the colors are beginning to turn brown, and there's just a kind of ripe smell of the beginning of kind of decomposition around the whole scene.
And below the decomposition, you can always smell just the hint of honey, because mead is in everyone's glass and spilled all over.
Indeed. I'd like for each to say a little bit about your preparations. Magda, you already have, but I'd like everybody to say a little bit about their preparations in the ensuing days after getting your prophecy to prepare for your trip to Ambaret, and also how someone during the festival, during the feast specifically, how they come up and like either wish you luck or otherwise celebrate you for your upcoming expedition.
I think Bernard is visited by one of his regular customers, somebody who he just acquired some live bees for that were snuck in through the gate of Fort Durin, despite there being some fairly strict controls over specifically what type of bees you're allowed to bring into the town. But Bernard has ways of acquiring the more specialized types that some people look for. And this customer is just ensuring that Bernard will be back in time for next year's festival, and the supply will be secure.
Indeed. Cassian or Malkuth, or Magda, if you have more to say.
During the festival, a woman will approach Cassian and press a small token into his hand and just whisper, "May you stay safe under his branches forevermore," and then move on. And afterward, Cassian will go. I think he'll spruce up his cloak, make sure the hood is in good condition, keep it lowered over his eyes, because Ambaret is not a place he was planning on returning to.
Cassian, a fair number of people in Fort Durin, and especially in the Scoundrel's Quarter, mock or otherwise besmirch the old man of the forest. What do they do? And how does it make you feel?
So the followers will often mark themselves with the old one's symbol, or wear things that kind of call back to the imagery. And so they're often scoffed at just for their backwards ways, and any of their little tokens left around are usually destroyed. And Cassian, for many years, he would be angered by this, but over time, they're just wrong and they will pay. It's pity now.
Indeed, indeed. Malkuth, your preparations?
He's fairly quiet. I think in the days after, there's lots of meditation and lots of sort of these almost ritual cleaning of his leathers and polishing of his warhammer. He's also constantly sort of touching up the tattoos that are on his body with these raw pigments. And then the more immediate days, like the feast, he tries to be social. Clearly looks a little bit like a fish out of water, though, as if he's not used to this many people or this much activity. He has learned his lesson and made sure to have honey on him or some kind of treat on him for children who will assault him later. But there's a moment where an older man, shaved head with some similar but not as ornate and decorative markings, sits beside him and puts his hand on his hand and says, "You've done well so far. Just remember to keep your head where it needs to be, on your shoulders. Don't let the forest get ahead of you, or Ambret, as it were, and stay safe." And Malkuth puts his hand on top of the man's hand, sort of clasping it, sandwiching it between his hands, and says, "Thank you, brother. I'm going to try my best."
Fabulous. Magda, anything you want to add?
I think just a little montage of Magda polishing her sword and polishing up her helmet. She wants to look her best when she walks into Amberette. She wants to look every bit the proud soldier that she was when she left this area.
Very good. I think the four of you, during the festival, during the feast part of it, you're all kind of brought together again, and the people are, toasting you, raising up their honey mead, flagons to wish you the best. Many of them pointedly look at you, Cassian, and say, "May the sisters watch over you." And yeah, it's a whole thing. And during the middle of all that, once the crowd sort of disperses a bit, you hear a voice calling out, directed at the four of you. "A new expedition, treasure hunters." If you look, you will see a man that everyone in the Scoundrel's Quarter knows very well. He is Tharakis, keeper of the bestiary. He is a man who goes about with no shirt, and he's accompanied by a half dozen men and women who also go about with no shirts, because their entirety of their upper bodies, and arms and head, have been tattooed with pictures of various monstrosities, creatures of the wilds. Tharakis and his crew approach you, and he says, "As the keeper of the bestiary, it is my responsibility to remind you of your responsibility to the Scoundrel's Quarter, and indeed all of your fellow treasure hunters. Today, and your fellow treasure hunters to come, you are to maintain a strict record of the creatures you encounter. Remember them, detail them, and then report back so that we can add this knowledge to the bestiary to the benefit of all. Who among you Shall I deputize as your record keeper?
Malkuth shrinks in his seat a bit.
I think Bernard turns toward Malkuth and says, do you think being deputized involves being tattooed as they are?
Hopefully not. Those are some pretty ostentatious tattoos. I think it maybe just depends. I think it mostly depends on writing and keeping track of the things that you see.
Well, in that
I'm-
case, in that case, I, at least among the four of us, have my letters. I don't know. Perhaps I would be best suited to the task.
Excellent, he says. Swamp denizens! One of his associates, a woman, whose body is tattooed with all manner of lizards and giant crocodilians and snakes. She comes forth with a pot of ink, a little packet of them, or a little case of them, various multicolored inks. She presses them into your hand, Benah. Undead horrors! Another one of his associates, who is covered in images of skeletons and ghouls and vampiric monstrosities, comes up with a set of needles in a little leather roll and hands them to you. I hope you have something resembling artistic talent, friend.
And where am I to record my findings?
I have no preferences in terms of where on your body you record them. I prefer you to perhaps avoid your nether regions. That gets rather complicated. But the choice is yours. As long as the record is recorded, as long as we know.
Perhaps some parchment would be more appropriate.
They all laugh at that notion. Good luck. And they all turn around and they go to enjoy the festival.
I think Benna gives a kind of daggery look toward Malkuth, who he feels tricked him into this.
I'm sorry, friend. I really thought pen and paper would be all right. And maybe it still will be. I mean,
well, pen and paper is what they shall receive, if they can like it or not.
Out of character, Rob, you are responsible for the bestiary. That is the last tab there, or second to last tab there. You are always responsible for making sure the group comes up with names and adequate descriptions for the monsters you encounter. And any other notes you wish to make about them. It is your job.
It's fun.
Harvest Tide Honey Festival. Magda, how does the festival end for you in the late night hours?
I have found a table of very happy, drunken locals who are partaking of the mead. And I have taught them one of my greatest songs. Of course, it is Magda and the Assassin of Lavasti. And we're singing that in a very loudly, rousing, wonderful moment.
I love
I'm
it.
probably gonna pass out drunk.
Amanda, I think you need to keep once you get your copy of Trophy Loom, you need to keep it handy and just like randomly pick a page and name a song after whatever you see there.
I have Loom open the PDF right now, which is where I'm like, look for a word. And that was the first word that came
Magda
up.
and yeah. Good. I like it. Good. Cassian, how does the festival end for you?
I think solemnly he will go to leave one final offering at the edge of the forest, and it is a collection of just beautiful flowers. Clearly, he spent a lot of time on it.
Yeah, good. Malkuth, how does it wrap up for you?
He spends a little bit more time at this location. Basically, people watching, enjoying a little bit of mead here and there. But there's a moment towards the end of the night as he's starting to leave, and he accidentally bumps into a group of drunken revelers, and he puts his hands up and apologize. And they get really aggressive towards him. They start to shove him and start to taunt him for the markings on him. And he just takes it. But we would see that he's clenching his fist, and his knuckles are getting white as he's trying to restrain himself. And he grips the handle of his warhammer, again, as sort of a security measure, and says, "Again, I apologize, friend. Happy holidays to you." And he just very awkwardly starts to stutter out, and he tries to find an alley where he can kind of just like calm himself and start to breathe.
Good. I love it. But how about you?
I think it's a round of partaking in the mead, and actually he's somewhat involved in supply of various products here and there. He's inserted himself into as a middleman in between all kinds of vendors and the people running the stalls and the people supplying the mead and the honey and the bees and all kinds of things. So it's a real mixture of business and pleasure for him.
The next day, you are heading out to Ambaret. You are going on foot in the wilds between Fort Durin and Ambaret. Horses and things are just a pain in the ass, because you're not going to be staying on the well-traveled roads, because there are no opportunities on well-traveled roads except for bandits, and you are not bandits. And so we head out. Now here I need to tell you that the Scoundrel's Quarter has a ruin score. It starts at 1. It can go up because your actions in the wider world might provoke the forest, which is generally considered to be a hateful being that hates Fort Durin and treasure hunters in particular. Even when you're not in the forest finds a way. This ruin does particularly manifest in Fort Durin, and especially in the Scoundrel's Quarter. On the way out, you'll see some evidence that the quarter is slowly succumbing to the Kaldur, which is the proper name of the forest. A question for Malkuth. What dwelling in the quarter never holds a tenant for long? And why is it the forest's fault?
There's actually a rather tall but narrow sort of townhouse, and it could easily either fit a large family or a wealthy family, or a number of tenants. But anytime anyone sorts of moves in there or tries to occupy it, it's not long until the space between the walls begins to fill with all manner of critters and creatures from the forest, and they will tear through the walls and terrorize and keep tenants up at night. and the creatures, if the tenants stay longer than the forest wants them to, the creatures will get bigger and stranger.
Intriguing. Cassian, is this an intrusion from the forest or a blessing from the forest?
It is a sign that we need to listen to the forest's wishes.
Very good. Very good. Amanda, I see you got your books.
Yeah, sorry, I totally missed all that prompt because they just came. They just arrived.
It was just for Jack and Ben anyway. Do you want to show us your books?
I got the slipcover.
Oh, did you pre-order?
Well, no, I actually backed on. I was backer kid. I was a late backer. Let me just.
Well, that's what I mean. Like you didn't do the Kickstarter, so that
No.
there was no guarantee you were getting a slipcover.
Yeah, so I wasn't sure if it was going to happen. So I'm really excited that it did.
Awesome.
Yay! They're so beautiful.
I could use a quick bio break, so why don't we take 5 and then we'll come back. Think about who wants to be the cartographer. It can't be Rob. Your job as the cartographer is just to, on a Google drawing, make notes and draw lines. So we'll come back in 5. The places between. The places between Fort Duran and Ombret. The places between civilization and the wilds. The places between where we put dwellings and fences and the forest, which never allows such things to stand. Treasure hunters acknowledge the power of Saint Nia, who is a sister of hunches, omens, insights, flashes of brilliance. Saint Nia will always show you an omen when you're in the places between. Your omen has come in the form of a small black cat missing its left eye. It has been following you for a number of days, and you occasionally see it hanging out in a tree branch. Sometimes it walks right up to your fire. Cassian, tell me about the first time you saw the omen.
I think Cassian had just finished preparing the food for that evening, which was largely plants and legumes. And when the cat appeared, he paused and just stood watching for a moment before whispering, "I hear you," and going to maybe follow it.
Indeed. When you follow it, it takes you to the thing that it actually wants you to see. What is it?
I think it is just a very, very old offering that someone left decades, century ago, possibly as part of an ancient harvest fest.
So I think we've decided, Cassian, that you are going to be the group's cartographer. And
Can do.
you have a map. You need to put Fort Durin on there somewhere. If it's not already, I don't remember, to be honest.
It is.
Okay. And then you will write down an offering on the trail that the omen took you to and draw a line between them. You'll always be able to safely travel from Fort Durin to this offering and back. You'll always be able to safely travel between any 2 points that you can make a line that connects them. As the cartographer, you are entitled to write down anything you want. I might describe a ruin. You can write that down, even if you don't stop there. You might camp for a night and something interesting happens at camp. You can write that down. You may encounter a monster somewhere. You can write that down. You're fully in control. The only thing you will definitely write down next is Ombret. Presumably Ombret's on the map already.
Yes.
Magda, you've been seeing this cat, your omen, missing its left eye. What do you suppose it's an omen of?
I assume that there are witches in these woods. That some witch has taken an interest in our activities. For good or for ill, hard to say. But everybody knows that cats and witches go together.
Indeed. Remember your interpretation of the omen. If you think that the omen is playing itself out at some point in the future, you get a light die. Malkuth, do you care for omens?
I do, actually. And I think if we've been traveling for a little bit, that we've at least heard about the cat, if not seen it ourselves. But there's a moment where maybe we're getting up and getting ready to go out, where Malkuth sees the cat, and they lock eyes, and Malkuth crouches down and sort of gestures for it to come to him, and it does. It starts to nuzzle his boots and into his palm and into his hand, and this is very calming to Malkuth. It's really relaxing, and he starts to pet him. But just all of a sudden, the cat bites down into his finger viciously and runs off. And for Malkuth, he sucks his thumb, sucks the blood out. But I think for him, this is a reminder that no matter how beautiful or sweet something is, it can always hurt you.
Is that the omen, how you're interpreting it?
Yes.
Note that. Bana, how do you interpret the omen?
I think Bernard's first encounter with the cat is as they make camp one night and they're sitting by the fire, tucking into some rations. And the cat approaches. And Bernard, always mindful that luck needs to be placated, needs to be something he ensures is on his side, removes his hat and nods toward the cat politely before feeding it a piece of the dried fish that he's eating. And I think his interpretation of the omen itself is to do with the fact that it has one eye. He interprets as being single-minded in pursuit of the goal, not getting sidetracked, not getting drawn away by distractions, keeping that one eye focused on what your intention is.
Take note of your interpretation. It's good for a light die later. You're in a region called, it has a name, I promise. Find it in my PDF real quick. You're in a region of the world called the Crawling Hills. The people of Kaldur, which is the name of the continent, the world, and the forest, they all share this name. The people of Kaldur believe that the lands between have personalities. The forest, of course, has a personality with which everyone is very familiar, and no one ever wants to be crosswise with. The Crawling Hills is considered an old beast. It is a swarm of slowly moving hills. Over time, they devour ruins and buildings as if they are hungry, and then they vomit up later. And by later, I mean centuries later. They vomit up what they've swallowed. And so the landscape is littered with half-digested towers, castles, dungeons, all kinds of things. None of these things are where the Pathseers have sent you, but certainly nothing can stop you from taking a look. Let's paint the scene, everyone. How are the Crawling Hills reflecting the personality of the old beast?
I think simply the way the wind whips around the hills themselves and the trees. There's almost an animal-like sound that it can make at times that just gives you the sense that there is something alive all around you at all times.
The soil itself is loamy. It has a it smells alive and it smells old at the same time, as if nothing is keeping it going except the worms down in the dust, but you know that there's more than that making these hills move.
I think the Crawling Hills are something of a nocturnal creature, and so during the day, the ruins aren't as maybe impressive. They aren't as vast as you would see them at night, where they start to look like they expand and rise. And then every morning they descend, and by night, and it's just cyclical.
Because of the variety of buildings that it consumes, castles, houses, towers, there's a neutrality and a naturalness to it. It is an animal. It isn't vindictive or evil. It is just hungry.
I love it. The omen has left you some time ago. One day, while you're in the Crawling Hills, going through a particularly misty patch, indeed, this land is frequently covered by heavy fog, and every now and then you can see towers, or the remains of towers and other ancient structures peeking out of the fog. But at one point, the fog clears as you come upon the Veil of Fire. The Veil of Fire is not really a veil. It's mostly just a little patch of land between some hills. And it's not exactly covered in fire, thank goodness. It is so named because there is a group of people who tend enormous brass braziers that are dotted all along the land. Their whole purpose is to keep the braziers burning. This long line of them. And as you sort of make your way through, you actually see one of these brazier tenders throwing some charcoal into the fire. Or some wood to the fire. Bless this fuel, Saint Fatima. Make the charcoal burn bright and hot. Walks down to the next brazier. Bless this fuel, Saint Fatima. Make the charcoal burn bright and hot. And so forth. Lots of braziers, tons of them. It's probably like 100. They're huge. They're like the size of like a desk or bigger. What do you all do? Bless this fuel, Saint Fatima. Make the charcoal burn.
Magda will go up and introduce herself to them if nobody stops her.
Oh, hello.
Hello. What a wonderful job you have, brightening up the world.
Yeah, if only. Throws some more wood into the fire. Bless this fuel, Saint Fatima. May the charcoal burn bright and hot.
Tell me, are we near any sort of towns or tell me about this area. Tell me about yourself. I'm sure you know me. My name is Magda. I'm certain you've heard the story of Magda and the Fort Gnarled giant rat.
Does that story involve lighting great big fires and keeping them lit?
Well, there was one great big fire, but that one was started by accident.
Haven't heard of it. My name is Ifrin. I am a priest of Saint Fatima, who is a sister who we revere in my order. Have you heard of Saint Fatima? Charcoal burner sister?
Of course,
right. This is the Veil of Fire. We have to keep these fires lit in order to protect, well,
protect a person, a thing, a hill.
He points, and you see in the mist a very long, tall, shadowy shape. It walks about on 7 spindly limbs and has a sort of weird, twisted torso. It's very, very tall, 30 or 40 feet tall. And it just walks in the shadows. It says, they won't come near the fire. That's why we have to keep the fires lit.
Perhaps this is a good place for us to make camp. I would rather not tangle with one of those things, if we can avoid it.
Never seen anything quite like that. Cassian, you're a forest person.
I've not seen a 7-legged beast.
Those are stalkers in the mist. They were one of the many demonic horrors released from Old Kaldor when that ancient city fell.
And tell me, friend, how long have you been warding them off from this place? And what do they want here that you need to protect it?
Well, truth be told, we don't really know what they want anymore. We've just always done this. They don't come near the fires, and therefore what we do must be worth doing. Saint Fatima commands it.
It sounds like a job that doesn't get much gratitude, so I do want to extend my thanks to you.
Oh, that's very nice. Thank you. Yes. Thank you.
Well, Kazian, Magda, did you want to set up some camp here? Or?
I think camping here is better than camping out where that thing is.
It could be
And-
friendly for all we know.
Yeah.
No one's actually ever approached one.
Are there any stories about them?
Well, no. You should go approach one and see what happens.
I'll put that in the maybe folder.
Magda's definitely going to do it. It's just a matter of when.
Probably
Magda
just a beast
and the
like all
Night
of-
Stalker, or the Fog Stalker, what was it called?
A Stalker in the Mist.
Yes, Magda and the Stalker in the Mist would be a wonderful song.
Much better than Magda the Flatulent.
Ah, why do people keep singing that one? It was one time.
Well, if that creature is aggressive and you don't manage to best it, I guess Magna the Flattened would be another nice alternative for a ballad.
Well, the thing is, if it doesn't come near the fire, if it seems to be more than I can handle, I just back off and come back to the fire.
Something tells me that thing might be able to outrun you, Saint Magda.
Just because it has 7 legs doesn't mean they're faster than mine.
Its legs
Nobody's
are also
faster than me.
significantly longer than yours.
I am very quick. I might not be as young as I used to be, but I am still quite fast and strong.
Did we see like a
From-
twinkle in your eye when he called you Saint, Magnum?
I think it was sort of like an irritated twitch. Like, are you making fun of me?
Oh, yes.
From I think like 30 feet away at this point, Cassian will call back. Well, if you're so fast, hurry up then. As he marches toward the stalker.
Yeah,
Well,
I'll
you're
chase
marching
after.
toward the stalker. Yeah.
I'll chase after Kazian.
Malkuth, Benal, what are you doing?
Malkuth will turn to Benah and say, well, you are in charge of the bestiary.
I have already taken note of the name that our friend there gave us.
Ifrin, he says.
And I'm sure I can sketch some kind of description of the thing. I don't know that I need to get any closer.
Perhaps not. Either way, though, I feel like we're better together than we are separate. So I'm going to go after them, not because I want to, but because I think it's probably just the safer option
Well,
for them.
I'm sure Magda will ensure that she is first to be devoured if any of us is to be devoured. So I might as well join you.
Ifrin will stop you, Benal, and say, you are not the first treasure hunter to come through here and to take note of the stalker in the mist. I was led to believe that you're supposed to tattoo the picture of the creature onto your body somewhere.
Oh, well, that is the practice of some recorders of the bestiary, but it is not my practice.
I see. I see. Well, good luck with whatever you find out there.
Tell me, is there anything more you can tell us about this creature? Does it have any particular habits?
Oh, no, I couldn't say really. I just like the fires, but you hear all sorts of things, you know.
What kinds of things?
Well, hell. Here, make the hunt roll.
Let's see if I have any appropriate skills. Or is I've forgotten how this works. Do
you
skills
get one
apply
light
in
die
one
just
rolls?
because, and then you get another light die if you have a skill or a piece of equipment that applies.
I don't think I can make much of a case for a skill there. And the only piece of equipment I have, which I did have before becoming the recorder of the bestiary, is a journal and black and invisible inks. But I don't think that really applies either, so I'll just make a straight roll. So just one light die, right?
Just one light die, yeah.
A 2.
You encounter something terrible. He says, well, I have heard that the creatures actually store a very, very valuable substance in their torso. And if you can manage to knock the creature down and split it open, you can take that substance for yourself. I have also heard that the creature has the ability to create fantastic and terrible illusions, that it can mess with your vision, cause you to fall into trances. It's very, very dangerous to approach the creature with your eyes wide open. In fact, I would recommend tying a blindfold around your face so that you do not fall to the creature's terrible ancient Kalduri magics.
Magda, hold up there a moment. I think I have some information that may be of use to you.
Am I too far away to hear?
I mean, you can go back and Banach can tell you all that, I suppose.
I think Benar will kind of hustle to catch up with her and pass that on.
Are we able to catch up to Cassian and pass that on to him?
I think he was keeping pace with Magda, probably.
Oh, good.
Blindfolds, my friend says.
Blindfolds. Blindfolds.
Just tear a cloth from your cloak and tie it over your face. That's the safest way, I'm told.
Well, I think that at least one of us should go unblindfolded, just in case. Just don't look up.
Why?
Or here's a thought.
Because we're in the forest.
Perhaps
and
we should
might
not
fall
go
and break
at
our
all.
necks. What? Why would we not go?
Because there is a giant creature there that is liable to eat us if we go.
If it's liable to eat us, then it's going to eat the other people that come through here. This is our opportunity to be heroes.
It's also liable to not eat any of us or anything that presents as a person. This could just be a creature that is just wandering the forest. Why do we need to intrude upon it?
What if it's
Indeed.
lost? This is our opportunity to be heroes.
We have a purpose here, Magda, and it is to reach Amberette safely.
Yes. We also have an obligation to help those along the way. An obligation bestowed upon us as adventurers and heroes.
I don't think I signed up to be a hero or an adventurer. A treasure hunter is fine by me. Kazian, I mean, you seem to know about the woods. Does this remind you of anything that you're familiar with at all?
No, that's why I wish to see it.
Oh, great.
I was raised to believe as you do, Magda, but I came to learn over the years that discretion is the better part of valor.
Young man, Are you saying that you know more than I do about valor?
I think Cassian will Bernard will kind of stroke his slightly graying mustaches, wondering who she's describing as young. But I was once a warrior of sorts, as you are. I have seen what becomes of those who foolhardily charge toward unknown foes. I merely offer what wisdom I may. But you, of course, will do as you will.
If I may just add a point, this was not on the path that was given to us, specifically me. It was very clear that we were supposed to go to Amberette, and this is very much not Amberette. If you want to go approach this thing, this is to you, Cassian, by all means. Just be aware that if we don't come back, then we are off the path and we have failed in what we were supposed to do.
Then we must make sure we come back.
Think
Bravery,
of all
my
we may
friends,
learn.
bravery.
For all we know, it's as threatening as a cow.
Let's hope.
So you're all
Benna,
heading
you wouldn't
towards
be
the
afraid of
creature.
a cow, would you?
I
Cows
would treat
do
it
have
with-
a fierce kick.
I would treat it with the appropriate respect.
Then
Is
let's
anyone
go.
going to put a blindfold on before you approach the creature?
Cassian's going to pull his hood down over just under his nose.
I think Malkuth will put a blindfold on, and with his skill in paths, I think he's going to try and use that to try and navigate safely.
Magda, are you wearing a blindfold?
If everyone else is blindfolded, then no. Because somebody needs to be able to see where we're going.
Bernard?
I think Bernard will put one on.
But I'm going to
Cassian,
keep my
once,
eyes averted.
once Magda asserts she's not wearing a blindfold, Cassian's going to just grab her sleeve. Just in case.
You make your way up a hill and down a hill and up another hill in this thick fog. It's a little slow going because some of you don't have your sight, the benefit of your sight, but these are pretty gentle hills. And you are getting where you believe is the general direction of where the creature that you saw in silhouette in the fog is at. When you all hear the distinct shishk of swords and blades being drawn from their scabbards. Magda, if you look up, you will see that the creature is a construct made of cloth and kite string, waving back and forth in the fog. At a distance, the perspective tricks you and thinks it's an enormous creature. And you are all now currently surrounded by a group of 6 brigands who have their weapons drawn. It's combat.
Magda, can I take the blindfold off?
Yeah,
Magda, what do you say?
yeah, this might be a good time to take the blindfolds off.
I think, yeah, Bernard would certainly, as soon as he heard swords being drawn. Or
Indeed. It is it's an endurance, probably with this big of a group, it's endurance 10. And please say how you are vulnerable and roll a weak point.
Well, surrounded by maybe enemies, clearly people that want to fight us with weapons, and I'm going to feel very responsible for these other 3.
Very good. 6 is your weak point, not the best.
I think Bernard is vulnerable just because while he suspects that Magda is, or certainly she told him she is skilled in arms, he doesn't really know anything about the fighting capability of the other two, and his own skills in that department are a little rusty.
You got a 1? Or no, it's Cassian. Cassian got a 1.
I got a 2.
Oh, you got a 2. Very good. Right. No, it says you got a 1 here, I think. You got a 1.
Oh.
Cassian got a 1. Bernard got a 1.
Everyone got
twice.
ones.
Everyone got 1s,
I think I
except for
clicked it
Magda.
twice by mistake.
Cassian, how are you vulnerable?
He only carries a staff. That's a lot of blades for a staff.
Yeah. Malkuth?
Similarly, I think we're just outmanned and outgunned, and more of them versus one of me is going to take me down.
Let's have the fight. It is a combat. Well, to start, it's combat 4. So Magda, you can roll.
I'm going to look around and this construct that's built, I want to take out one of its legs to see if I can get it to topple.
Oh, nice. Yeah. Oh, are you trying to like? Well, that's just your action in the combat, I guess.
Yeah, that's
Right,
sort of
yeah.
where I'm going for.
Yeah, I like it. Yeah, go ahead and just roll the combat 4.
Yeah.
We'll see what the result is here.
Combat 4.
6 and 4 is a 10. It's 1, 6, 1, 4, but the 2 we care about are the 6 and the 4. That is a 10. Those of you who have 1 on your weak point, you're taking 2 ruin right now, unless you mark an armor. The fight is not, you're going to win, but it is a hard fight. So let's kick it off. Magda, how does this go? You're taking a hit as well, Magda. So.
Yeah. I shake Cassian's hand off of my sleeve so that I can grab out my sword. And I think it is surprisingly quick how Magda can move because of the athletics and surprise skills that she has. And I sprint forward, and with my sword, I don't attack a person. I'm going for the ropes and pieces of wood that are helping hold this whole construct up, in hopes to knock it down. If there's any people on that, they'll come tumbling down too, and maybe it'll fall down and crush some other enemies for us.
I love it. Keep it going, Malkuth.
So I'm going to go ahead and mark some armor. So I'm not kicking off with 4 ruin for session. So I think you said there's 6 of them, right?
There are. Yeah, you can start defeating some of them.
Yeah. So like about 3 of them just zero in on Malkuth, and he has his warhammer drawn, and he's trying his best to keep them at bay with it, but they are just sort of blood hungry, and they charge at him, and he grips his amulet of protection, and then there's this flash of red bands that go across his body as their swords all collide into him, and their swords are sort of ringing with that arcane energy as the amulet goes cold. And Malkuth, still trying to kind of keep it together, is gripping onto the warhammer, and he's trying to bat them away, but they're just too aggressive. And finally, Malkuth lets loose and just slams the warhammer into the skull of one of them, just crushing its face. And he starts roaring like a beast.
Keep it going, Bernard.
Yeah, I think Bernard is saber drawn, squares off against a group of them, and turns out to be quite skilled in the arts of combat. He in fact has a skill in dueling, and he is able to swiftly disarm one of them and dispatch him with a thrust through the chest, and another lands a blow on him, but it's protected by his armor, and he returns with a swift cut across the man's throat, sending him down. And yeah, he accounts quite well for himself in this fight.
Cassian, there's one left to get rid of. What do you do?
During the whole of the fight, I think Cassian also shows some combat training. He's hitting out with his staff, trying to he's doing mostly what would be considered parries and clearly non-lethal attacks, and trying to dodge as much as he can, which takes his stiff wool cloak, gives that a bit of customization through the blades, and finally he just drops into a crouch, sweeps his staff out, and catches one behind the knee, and just drops him to the ground. And stands up, puts the staff against the man's neck.
He's like, I yield, I yield.
Should have known there's no 7-legged beasts. Perhaps a spider missing one, but no.
I thought it was a bit weird myself. I thought you should have an even number of legs, but these fools, well, 7's a lucky number, and please let me go.
The priest, is he aware of your tricks?
No.
He'll look at Magda. The priest is aware of their tricks.
Yes, I gather that now. What kind of priest would let people just walk into a mess like this?
Well, clearly a priest who is himself a brigand.
I think Malkuth is storming off back in the direction towards the priest. And he's fuming.
Indeed, indeed. The man that you have at bay here, Cassian, he says, friend, please let me go, and I shall burn many, many sticks of charcoal in your name. I shall beg Saint Fatima to bless you for your mercy.
Is this Ephraim or the rebel?
This is the brigand, the one that
Okay.
Cassian has pinned down.
Cassian will look up at Magda and say, take his gold and his sword.
Indeed. We can roll, do a gold roll. Go ahead, Cassian. You can roll gold 10. Two? Yeah, they have a number of like coins and gems that they've taken over the weeks from other travelers. You will learn from him as he's sort of like, as you're sort of like interrogating him, that they are a gang. They call themselves charcoal burners. You can add them to the bestiary banal if you wish. And you can all split up that treasure however you wish. Only 2 people are getting something, but it's up to you. Malkuth, you see the priest and he sees you and he runs. What do you do?
Running after him, if I can, just trying to snatch him up and hold him over a fire.
I like it. I don't need a roll. You can just do it. So you do catch him, and he's like, please, they made me do it.
They didn't make you do shit.
No, they did. They did. They told me that if I didn't pretend to see the 7-legged creature, that they would come down the hill and they would run me through with their daggers. And
so if I take you up there right now, they're gonna tell me the same thing?
Yes.
Let's go. And he starts to drag him.
Eventually you are back. You have your prisoner, and you have 2 prisoners now. And the priest is like giving the other prisoner like big eyes. What do you do?
I really don't like liars, so I'm gonna really, really ask you nicely. Do you 2 know each other? Do you know what's going on? Are you in on this together?
And then
of course they do.
You get a simultaneous yes and no from them.
Malkuth drops his warhammer on the one who says no on their hand, trying to crush their hand.
It's the priest who says no.
Yeah.
And he's crying out and screaming and like, flailing around. He's like, please let us go. The charcoal burners will never trouble you again.
Well, we're not going to let you go while we're making camp. You'll just come back and kill us.
He's like, we won't, I promise.
At least 5 of you won't.
And he looks over and he starts saying a prayer to Saint Fatima. Dear Saint Fatima, let the smoke of their souls rise up from
you see the face of that one, the neck of that one.
Yeah. He looks and he's like,
There's no heroism in cutting people down when they're not even armed, when they're surrendered.
You're right. You're right.
No heroism indeed, but perhaps wisdom.
I have a chain. We can wrap them, bind them for the night if we feel that's the best course of action. And then in the morning, Malkuth kind of kneels down in front of Ephraim. We'll figure out what to do then. Maybe you'll come out of this with at least one functional hand.
Or maybe the actual beasts of the land are hungry.
That sounds reasonable.
during the camp, I will tell you, fast forwarding a bit, if you do make camp amidst the braziers, because this is still a thing here, and presumably these brigands didn't put it here, this enormous collection of giant braziers. They are burning, although not as much as they were, because the Saint Fatima priest is not there to man them. But they actually do have a sort of repellent power of some sort. You'll notice that creatures of the wilds, like animals, will just they go around it, like they don't walk amongst the fires. It's a convenient spot to make camp. It's warm. There's a cook fire everywhere you turn. It's great.
Yeah, we'll just make sure the 2 prisoners are chained up, not going anywhere. And yeah.
The night passes
we'll
without
probably
incident.
do a watch keep.
Yeah, you can set watches and all that. Yeah. Well, the night passes without incident. There's really nothing to tell. The next morning, the fires are all just embers. And the priest says, I do actually have to maintain these fires. The whole banditry thing was just a side gig.
Perhaps we take your tongue. We'll keep anyone passing by safe.
Well, you've killed most of the gang. There's really nothing else. There's no more danger. I'm just going back to being a priest of the charcoal faith.
Well, that's your fate then. You can keep your tongue. You need to say prayers with it. You will need to say your prayers with it, because if we come back here, we find you with more brigands and more constructs, I shudder to think what will happen to you.
What do you do with the other guy?
Leave that to Magdan, Bana.
Shall we strip him down and send him into the forest? Well, of anything that he could use to kill us if he were to chase after us, not down to his skivvies.
Perhaps.
Yeah, I think we take everything of theirs and turn them loose.
Then they can make their way home as the forest decides.
Let the forest judge them.
Indeed, indeed. The journey continues, getting closer and closer to Ambaret. making pretty good time, apart from the being waylaid by bandits near the Veil of Fire. You haven't really had too much trouble. One night, while you're making camp, sitting around your fire, you see someone approaching. They are tall. Not tall like that kite creature that the bandits had devised, but long-limbed, gangly, bony, in a very elaborate, richly embroidered gown, but dirty. This tall, bony figure that approaches your fire has milky white eyes and sunken cheekbones, sunken face, cheekbones exposed, wearing its elaborate but tattered gown. Has a staff from which dangles a verdigreed bell. And this tall, gangly thing, which as it gets closer, you realize now is about 9 feet tall, very tall. And it just walks up to your camp, and it stretches out its single hand that's not holding the bell staff. And it rings the bell. Ding, ding, ding.
Friend, do you hi, Malkuth, do you the bell, is that necessary?
Magda, this figure, you have heard stories about bell ringers in the wilds. What story have you heard about? Well, I'll tell you what story you've heard, then you can tell me something else. You've heard that when these creatures ring their bell the first time, it augurs a change to come. Upon hearing the bell resonate, what change do you think is going to come?
I think the change is a change in the forest itself. It's going to become different somehow. It's signifying the shift change, I suppose, of one deity to another. And we can tell that something is happening because I think everything goes really quiet, all the animals and the skittering and the noise, even the sounds of the crackling, of fires and such, everything is very quiet. And so we can almost, if we convince ourselves, hear the bell still ringing as it echoes throughout the rest of the forest. But yeah, it's that change in who's in charge.
Make a note of your augur. It's worth a light die in the future. The thing stretches its hands and the staff out to you. And it gives up a musical note from its throat that is dry and raspy, as if it comes from the heart of the forest itself. It rings the bell the second time. Cassian, you intuit that the second bell means death. Which of your companions' death is augured by the ringing of the second bell?
Mine.
Interesting. Make a note of it. It's not good for a light die, but make a note of it. It continues its song. Everyone has heard a rumor about what terrible fate befalls those who hear the third bell. Malkuth, what rumor have you heard?
He recalls tales from his childhood about these bell ringers and the third bell, and it luring unsuspecting travelers to wherever this lair of the bell ringer is, where it will then be feasted upon, living.
Then what have you heard about the ringing of the third bell?
Bernard's heard that the first bell attracts the attention of a creature in the forest, and the second bell draws them toward you, and the third bell is the signal for them to pounce.
Magda, what have you heard about the third bell?
The first bell signifies the change in which deity is in charge. The second bell signifies who the deity is marked for sacrifice. And the third bell signifies the desire for the deity to rise up and take physical control of the forest, which is why nobody knows what happens, because the deity won't let anyone live.
Cassian, what have you heard about the third chime?
That only those with the forest in their blood can hear it at all.
Intriguing indeed. The bell ringer has rung his bell twice, and do you all have an idea, a theory about what happens if it should ring a third time? What do you all do?
Does it look like it's like paying attention to us, or just sort of like mindlessly ringing the bell?
It's a little unclear. Its eyes
Okay.
are cloudy. It's just sort of looking out. It's among you, though.
I think we should hasten away.
I think so too. I've heard stories. Maybe they were just campfire tales, but I really don't want to stick around to find out.
Magda's got her fingers right into her ears, not hearing anything. If you don't hear it, it doesn't count.
Bana
And
and
for our
Malkuth are
tales.
running. Cassian, what are you doing?
Listening, waiting.
Very good. The creature chimes the third bell. And we'll end the session there. Let's go ahead and do stars and wishes. Stars are things that you enjoyed about the session. Wishes are things that you hope to see in the story next time. Whoever wants to go first, take it away.
I really enjoyed everyone's characters. I think we've got an interesting group here. I'm looking forward to finding out more about what it means for Malkuth to be a chain. And I'm looking forward to Bernard needling Saint Magda a little more about her pious, holier than thou ways. And yeah, looking forward to Cassian leading us safely, I'm sure, through this forest. Yeah, other than that, just generally exciting to be in a longer form trophy game, which is a new thing for me.
Yeah, stars for all these characters. You all know that I love playing games with you also. I'm just excited to be here. I'm excited to see these new characters that you're bringing out and how everyone's interacting and how everyone's going to sort of settle into what their ideas and their personalities and their drives are. I'm really looking forward to just finding out more and fleshing this whole world out, which is not really a thing I've gotten to do in Trophy before. So I'm really excited about all of this. My wish is to not have to go back to work right after this. I wish I could just read my books, but I have to work.
Stars, as mentioned, to the characters. I like that we have such, all the characters are so disparate in their backgrounds and also their attitudes. It's going to be a fun time to see how we develop and how we continue to interact with each other. Big star for the giant monsters, actually brigands. That was a great little twist. And yeah, I'm really enjoying the interaction of all these new mechanics that I've never had any experience with, and playing with the map, and it's fun.
Yeah. Overall star for getting to be part of this. This is fun. I've only done a couple of like long-term campaigns, and so this is my first thing with like Trophy Gold as a long-form campaign, and so very, as a wish too, as just excited to see how it's going to progress and how the like ruin of the scoundrels will sort of factor into that and all that. Feeling very inarticulate right now because I'm still really kind of like coming down off the game. But yeah, I really loved everyone's characters. I love Benaz's swagger, and I love like he's sort of the as much as Magda wants to be the face of the party, I think that Benaz is very much sort of like the one behind the strings who's really got a head on his shoulders. And I like Kazian. He's sort of the got a cool head about him. It's so far, it seems, and I feel very secure in his guidance to a degree. And then Magda, I love if the like Cassandra vibes that she gives me to a degree. And I love like the incorporating of the different ballads. It makes for some very fun moments. And then yeah, to Jason, I love the hoodwink of the brigands, and yeah, just overall wish is just to kind of get a better feel for the system more, for gold specifically, and to see where it goes.
Yeah, I really I enjoyed this a lot, and I there's lots of reasons why, for many of the reasons you've all articulated already, but I will add that I love this sort of like really, really sinking into the setting that we're doing. When I've typically run Trophy in the past, it has been in these like more compartmentalized, one-off little short series, right? Where we don't have any promise of seeing the characters again. That's not entirely true because of my Saturday group, which Ben was a longtime member of, actually. In that one, we really, that was long-term campaign. We've really done a lot of really good character development and building there. But the difference, though, is that campaign was run before a lot of this stuff was done in the books, right? So I was very much like kind of winging a lot of stuff. A lot of stuff in that campaign ended up in the books, incidentally. So that's fun. But but this is the first time that like I've really had a chance to like really settle into the Trophy setting and take the time to do it and to really flesh it out. And from the GM side, it was very, very fun to open up these 3 books digitally, because I have the books, but I still prefer the PDF. Open up the 3 books and look at the Scoundrels Quarter part and pick out the things that I wanted, because it's not always the same. You pick out from tables, and then incorporate some stuff from Loom. Think about the gold things that I wanted to happen. Like, it was just a really fun like process to put all that together. And as I was picking out characters like the path seers and the tattoo guy who keeps the bestiary, like this is all stuff that was in the books, but like I could like envision like how I was going to play it out, right? And how I was going to connect it up. It's like go and put this here and put that there, and I'm going to do this, right? Everything today was inspired, came from the books, right? And so that was really, really fun, except for the brigand twist in the book. The creature and the fire that's a real thing in the book. I made it the twist, but I was inspired by that, right? And so like that was just really, really fun it's been really fun to kind of settle into the setting, both in preparing for this, but also in just seeing how you all played it out, right? The honey festival was really fun. The just taking that time to really like learn the characters, and you all did a really good job just out of the gate, like with your characterizations and showing us what these characters are about. And so I really appreciate that, because it gives me a lot to work with. And I think we have a really fun party dynamic that's already here and rapidly developing. I also really enjoy Magda and Banaz like Leo Scorpio energy that they're giving me, because it's very much that. And I love this idea that Cassian is a heretic, right? Like Cassian is not the like accepted religion of most people, right? And it was fun to kind of like poke that a little bit, around the margins. And I actually really enjoy this character that you're playing, Jack, because I feel like this character you're playing is a little bit out of type for you. And so that's been enjoyable. It's fun to see like, players like kind of stretch their legs and do something a little different. And so, yeah, I'm having a really good time with it. My wishes are, I obviously want to see what's going to happen at the end of the Spellringer thing. And then I'd be curious to see kind of like what your arrival in Ambaret is like. I think that'll be fun to see as well. So, because you can just go wander around Ambaret, right? There's nothing stopping you from doing that. Or you can go straight to the temple, but I mean, you're on something of a timer, but I'm also very curious to see like, this is a long-term wish, but I'm really curious to see how the bestiary in the map develop as well. So
yeah, I think Bernard's very grateful he didn't immediately tattoo the Stalker and the Mists on himself before we discovered it was fake.
I know. Well, that would be really funny if you had like tattooed a monster that's not there, right?
Just cross it out. It's fine.
And the the jerk priest who's like, he knows you're not doing it right, and he knows it's not a monster, and he's still like trying to get you to do it. That was pretty funny. Anyway, any other stars or wishes?
I just had a comment. Amanda has said that we so far have a dynamic that's very reminiscent of Wizard of Oz, and I can definitely kind of see it already with Magda being this sort of Dorothy figure. I think Malkuth is probably Cowardly Lion right now, and Banaz probably like maybe Tin Man, but I think he could also be Scarecrow. I don't know. Cassian could also kind of fulfill either role right now, but just kind of excited to see where that goes.
Indeed. Fabulous. There actually is a Wizard of Oz inspired Trophy Dark incursion too in the book. Any other stars or wishes, or just thoughts in general?
Can't wait to see how this cliffhanger pans out. Can't believe you're leaving us on such a cliffhanger, but it is you.
How I do. Yeah.
Stuck Queen. Look at that. Love it.
That's what I do. Sorry. Yeah. Fabulous. Okay, well then I'm gonna go ahead and stop the recording. Let's wave goodbye to all the people watching, all 10 of them.